Sorry about the late stream, everyone. I got caught up in a phone call. Yeah, that's what happened. Oh, fuck. Is this working? Is this lagging again? Sup, holy cow. Thanks for the check-in. We love the SARS and the checks and the check-ins for the SARS. Let's see. I'll put it like here. There we go. Just wait a few minutes. I know I'm a little late. Sorry about that, everyone. My bad. My B. I try to keep it consistent so there's always, a place for people to congregate. For the Asian man, the Asian American men, the MR Asians to all gather and talk about shit that affects Asian American men. That's really what this place is for. At the end of the day, that's what this place is for. Primarily. It's not just about that. Obviously, we have communism, and we have talks about, geopolitics, and we have, God, it's doing that dropped frames thing again, but I'm kind of too lazy to. As long as the sound is fine, I'm just gonna go with it because nobody goes to stream to fucking watch me do shit, So no Yellow Knight shutdown. No, not yet, Cucker Tarlson. Not yet. I think it's probably because, let's be honest, I'm not important enough for intelligence agencies to take out. I'm a lone voice. I'm, just, as far as they're concerned, I'm a lone person shouting at the wind, right? But I am coming up with some interesting revelations, especially about Zionism that I've been reading about. As you all know, I've been reading that book, Zionism and the Holocaust. I'm almost done with it. Yeah, I hope they don't arrest me. But, in a way, I kind of, I feel like, in a way, I'm a target they can't arrest comfortably. I won't really say why that is. But there are certain things about my connections to people, that's all I'll say, that it would make it a difficult proposition to just disappear me outright. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I'll be disappeared and, maybe, one of you might come to avenge me, right? Or tell the world it was CIA, because I definitely didn't kill myself, unless, we all know my stipulation of how to actually believe I committed suicide. The 3 notarized, whatever, the spiel. I gave you guys the spiel, so one of you can avenge me if I'm disappeared at some point, or at least let some people know what the reason was, and most definitely was not suicide. No matter how many Sam Altmans try to convince you otherwise, or but yes. Man, I guess not many. A lot of people thought wasn't going since I'm late, but I guess I won't talk for too long. But I can just give some updates on what's going on. But I'll wait a little bit. I'll wait a little bit longer. Just shoot the shit a little bit longer. I did have to make a new NGL, so I guess I'll just put that in the fucking stream right now. It's not that different. It's just Doug Fantastic 1. So that's the link for anyone who wants to ask me a question but doesn't want to ask it in the chat and doesn't want to look, stupid or whatever. Or, yeah, I mean, I won't guarantee that I'll answer it because some of the questions are retarded and personal. I don't really want to talk about my personal life because I don't want to get doxxed. I mean, I guess it's a little too late. I mean, I'm in somewhat of a public figure, by trade, right? Or I was trying to be for the longest time. So I am somewhat of a known quantity in the online sphere spaces. I'm not really this, faceless entity. Uh, that's. But whatever. Gotta practice some OPSEC hygiene. Can't give it away too easy, right? Otherwise, you're gonna have fucking groypers swatting me or whatever, and they're probably like, looking for any opportunity to do some fucking asinine bullshit. So, not just looking out for the feds, right? Got to look out for the fucking groypers, or basically auditioning to be feds. As many of you may know, in Nazi Germany, there were the Freikorps, or in Russia, there were the White Russians that were trying to attack the October Revolution or attack communism. And they were basically funded by the state. The White Russians, obviously they weren't funded by the Soviets, but they were funded by British imperialists who did not want the October Revolution to happen. And it's actually interesting because I'm reading both about Zionism and anti-Semitism in Europe. I just finished this book. I finished 2 volumes. I've only read volume 3 and volume 4. Volume 3 was more about 1700s and the early 1800s. This is more about, obviously, the Wagnerites and that kind of like the late 1870s or 1800s in Germany was kind of like the development of the proto-Nazi sort of movement. And so I'm reading about this, and the October Revolution, from the point of view of Great Britain, was not only a threat because it was communism. Wait, why am I lagging so much? Am I lagging? Fuck. Is the sound okay, guys? Even if the fucking screen isn't okay? Because that's more important than the fucking you needing me to see smooth whatever. I will restart the computer. Sorry, I didn't end up restarting the computer this time because I was late for the stream and I wanted to just show up. So I was considering not doing the stream because it's so late, but I figured I just might as well. That's fine. The screen, whatever. Just listen. Don't have to see my beautiful face, I guess. You kind of all know what it looks like. Yeah, exactly, Cooker Tarleton. I'm getting throttled. Like, I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, my fucking OBS is acting up. It's dropping frames. I don't know what the fucking deal is. I'll try to see. I'll do a fucking full-on restart next time, right before the stream. But I figured I'd just show up right now, because it was already 8:40. Anyway, the thing I learned about Great Britain, was that during the October Revolution, they hated it, first of all, because they were fighting Germany, and Russia dropping out meant that the Germans were going to, attack the Western Front. And they made all this propaganda saying that Lenin was a German agent. And it was actually very interesting at the time because back in the 1917 or whatever, they connected Germany with Jewish people because, the German Jewish intellectual crowd, well, first of all, obviously German Jewish, Marx, came up with Marxism, right? So the English, the British, they would equate Jewishness with communism because, Karl Marx and they kind of like, they connected Germany, not Russia, with this Jewish communism shit. And they were like, hey, Lenin was sent by these German whatever. And guess who sent them? It was the Jews, right? Because what was also happening is in 1905, that's when white Russians who saw that initial revolution, that was, there were a lot of Mensheviks involved, and a lot of Mensheviks were Jews. And so they were like, oh, the revolutions, they're all just about Jews here. So they fabricate the Protocols of Elders of Zion using actual Zionist language first, because the first Zionist Congress happened. But they also used shit from Louis Bonaparte's kind of like sort of propaganda piece. So they kind of like make this Frankenstein propaganda thing that the British fucking they use as propaganda during World War One, saying, hey, this is a Judeo-Bolshevik threat. So they're telling the Russian people, these Jews are trying to take over your country from Germany. So that's actually where the Judeo-Bolshevik shit starts from. Because, oh shit. Because from their perspective, right, they see Germany sending Lenin into Russia, right? And then they see that Karl Marx came from Germany and he was Jewish. And they see this October, not the October, but the 1905 revolution. So the British are like, and then the white Russians, they're giving them, copies of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And so British press was the one that was amplifying this shit to the rest of the world, being like, these fucking Bolsheviks need to be stopped. They're Jewish fucking Judeo-Bolshevism, and they're trying to, take over Russia right now. Because the thing about Russia, not only was it, attacking Germany on the Eastern Front or whatever, but it's right near Crimea. It's right near the Middle East. It's right near that territory, right? And Britain's primary concern at that point in time, at that point in history, was their colony, India. India was the crown fucking jewel of the British Empire, right? Because you got a whole lot of Jeets working for you. You got a whole lot of Jeets under your British... The entire fucking army was basically the imperialist army. Those were the fucking Indian... You know when they say Pax Britannica? That's because their own soldiers weren't going to war. They were using the British Raj for their imperialism in Asia. So fucking that 19th century Pax Britannica, that was because they were using fucking Indian sepoys to fucking attack the rest. So they were concerned about Russia dropping out, because if Russia drops out and helps Germany like win, now Britain, like their connection to British India is threatened, because if they form a block, if Germany and Russia form a block, because the Soviets are anti-imperialists, right? So they're not going to help Britain out, like get to fucking whatever. And if Germany wins as well, yeah, they're obviously going to fucking block that shit, because that's the thing that helps England the most. So Britain's primary concern at that point, the ruling class, was like, we cannot lose British India, right? So that's why from 1917 to like around, around 1921, the Times in Britain, which was their premier newspaper or whatever, They were amplifying these like protocols of the Elders of Zion, all this fucking propaganda against Jews or whatever. And then in 1921, the same newspaper says, "Oh wait, no, it was a fabrication this entire time. We have proof. We can." So my thing is like they knew it was a fabrication the entire time, but they knew that this was a possible way to get to defeat the October Revolution, because not only was Lenin affecting things in Soviet Russia, but people around the fucking Europe were reading imperialism, right? He came out with it in 1916, and imperialism basically says the imperialists are just using you as cannon fodder for their own financial interests. And it was fucking true, right? So you see a lot of like actually French mutinies. There were like soldiers that were mutinying because they were like, yeah, this is fucking pointless. We're fighting in this is terrible fucking trench warfare for these fucking, aristocrats. And it's fucking terrible. Yeah, I'm going to fucking leave the army. Are you kidding me? Yeah, so in France and Britain, the October Revolution was causing a lot of mutinies and whatever. So they wanted to like destroy that altogether, being like, hey, it's the Jews that were fucking, because like there was latent anti-Semitism all over Europe. It wasn't just fucking Germany. It wasn't just fucking Russia, right? There were anti-Semitic kind of like, yes, it was less so in British, obviously in Great Britain, and the United States. But there still was anti-Semitism, right? Like in the, Britain and America. So they knew, hey, this is the way to not only, try to, get the Russian people against the Soviet whatever, but this is to keep our own people in line so they don't start getting any ideas about like we got to make communism like look like a conspiracy, that like if they join that, they're part of this Jewish conspiracy. So that's how they fucking like did it. And that retraction in 1921 or whatever, that was basically because that was the end of the Soviet Civil War. So at that point, they were like, yeah, it's not, we lost, right? We lost Russia, right? It doesn't even make sense. And not only that, there were probably also British Jews and American Jews who were like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, why are you saying this fucking nonsense? So they probably had Jews in Britain who were like, yeah, you need to stop saying this fucking bullshit nonsense. And that's why the Times retracted it in 21, because yeah, the Jews did have some influence in bourgeois society, because guess what? They were bankers, right? So that's how it all fucking happened in Great Britain. The Judeo-Bolshevik myth was created by the White Russians and then amplified all over Western Europe and America by the British propagandists. And it's funny because the Americans, they were involved with MI6 at the time. You got to remember that the Americans actually suspected Great Britain of trying to take over the entire world. Even up to World War I, they had a war plan red. Basically, they predicted, or they thought there was a scenario where Britain might try to invade through Canada. So they drew up the American war generals in preparation for that. They drew up War Plan Red as kind of like, hey, if Britain actually does attack us from Canada, this is our plan to defend ourselves. So they actually made War Plan Red because they weren't on Great Britain's side up to the 1900s. But once Great Britain amplifies this, white Russian propaganda, the Americans take it at face value because they have no idea what the fuck is going on in Europe right now. Because, MI6 has already been, doing shit since 1908. And the thing about MI6 is MI6 was created specifically to watch the German Empire. because the Germany was growing stronger and stronger because their industrialization and their modernization and their technology was superior to the rest of the world at that time. And so MI6 was created in 1908, right? And in 1914, that's when, 6 years later. And so MI6 obviously has some experience now with subterfuge and espionage. You know, even before that, the British Secret Service was somewhat of a fucking spy agency for the crown as well. So Great Britain had a lot of experience doing subterfuge nonsense, but America, they kind of, you know, they were kind of noobs at that. They started the FBI, I think, in the 1900s, and the CIA was kind of like created through the OSS, which had a lot of collaboration with MI6. You know, like MI6 or the British kind of showed Americans the ropes during World War II about, like, you know, espionage and whatever tactics, because they were trying to defeat the Nazis at that point. So when American people read this shit, they took it at face value. Like, that's the actual source of American anti-Semitism. Because in America, since the American Revolution, they were all about religious freedom, right? They were all about, hey, we don't want a monarchy, you know, to determine our state. We don't want a religion to determine our state. We're all about religious freedoms. How did we all get here? Because, you know, the fucking Puritans wanted to practice they wanted to separate from the Anglican Church, right? They wanted to practice Christianity the way they want to practice it, right? So when Jews came, like the initial Jews, there were some initial Jews in the American Revolution as well. So they were more accepted because, like, for the Americans, they were actually concerned about immigrants of Catholic persuasion, like Irish Catholics or Italian Catholics or whatever. They were like, oh, we don't fuck with Catholicism. Catholicism isn't our jam because that's more, you know, representative of the Pope, and that's, like, you know, monarchical authority and whatever, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of like racist as well. They didn't trust Irish people back then and whatever. But essentially, they kind of like more were wary about Catholicism rather than Judaism, because Judaism doesn't really conflict with any of the American kind of values. But after the Protocols of the Elder Zion was publicized by, you know, the British Empire, that is the point in when America's anti-Semitism started to happen. And in the, you know, legacy admissions, like if your dad went to Harvard, say, you would have a kind of a leg up in getting into Harvard, even if your numbers weren't there because you were legacy. And so, like, you would kind of get a little bit of a bump or a little bit of consideration. That all started in the 1920s because too many Jews were now entering these Ivy League institutions. So in order to preserve the correct Harvard character, alumni started petitioning for quotas for Jews. That's where legacy admissions actually fucking comes from. It comes from a Nazi anti-Semitic policy, American Nazi anti-Semitic policy, because they didn't want Jews to be in Harvard, because they took those things. And even after the retraction, nobody fucking reads the retraction, right? Nobody reads that shit. And what happened was Henry Ford ran with that shit. You know, he is, you know, he's obviously in Michigan, right? You know, he's making all these cars in fucking Detroit. And he also bought the Dearborn International. And after the Protocols of the Elders of Zion come out, he starts releasing all these fucking, like, anti-Semitic shit because he, you know, he had some business dealings with Jewish bankers that didn't go his way. And, you know, he became like a fucking virulent anti-Semite. And he writes all this shit, and he only retracts in 1927 because he needs some financing, right? So he's like, sorry, I didn't mean all that shit. But by then, Adolf Hitler is reading this shit, right? And when you read Mein Kampf in 1925, you're like, dude fucking plagiarized Henry Ford all over the fucking place. And so you can see the movement from the White Russians to MI6 to American Henry Ford to now Adolf Hitler, right? That's the fucking line of this Nazi Judeo-Bolshevik myth that's been circulating. And yeah, so that's the fucking, I just like, I kind of joke around and say that everything evil comes from the British Empire, but like, I haven't even fucking scratched the surface. I just found all this out like in the past couple weeks, just researching both Zionism and the Holocaust and the fucking, Nazi regime and MI6 and CIA, just like fucking putting it all together. Now it's like, holy shit. This is more diabolical than I actually initially even thought was possible. Like, every time I'm just so surprised at the fucking diabolicalness of Great Britain. They're just fucking evil incarnate. And British and Marx figured that out, in the 1850s. He was like, the goal of a communist international revolution is to start a world war against Great Britain. That was what he said in the 1850s. Dude saw the fucking Matrix, right? But yeah, and that's the other part too. We all think of Zionism as Jewish people, and the majority of Jewish people do support Zionism today. But the other thing too that I'm reading is that Zionism was actually not popular, especially with Orthodox rabbis. And at the time, a lot of Orthodox rabbis were in Poland and Soviet Union. They were less secularized. There were more kind of like religious Jews who were like, yeah, this is not our religion. No, we are not going to go to fucking Palestine because that's not, we're not supposed to go there until our Messiah comes, which is in our fucking religion. We're not supposed to forcefully go there. That's, I was checking AI. Apparently it's against their 3 or 4 rules in the Torah or something, in the Talmud even, that said you are explicitly not supposed to forcefully go into Israel. Like, it's in the fucking Talmud, right? And so those Orthodox rabbis, they were like, what the fuck is this shit? No, we're not going to send our Jews to Israel, whatever. That's just whatever. That's not what we're about. And so the Zionists were like, you know what? Maybe we don't need to save those Jews. Maybe they're not of proper Jewish stock. They were using a lot of the same fucking language the Nazis were using about their own fucking people. But yeah. All right, I'll get into the comments now. I've went on my spiel about the fucking MI6 and the British Empire being evil incarnate. But that's the fucking story. This is like I am digging up shit. I am pretty confident no one has ever fucking dug up before. Obviously I'm aided by more recent scholarship. There's stuff that I'm finding out from people who've written stuff in the past few years. But I don't think anyone's really connected it all together like I have in this way. But that is all going to be shared in my World War II documentary that will come out at some point in my lifetime, unless I am killed by, capitalist interests Which is kind of like, you know what? Maybe I should just go to China and make this stuff in China so I don't have to worry about getting killed. But you know what? I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about the move to China and all that stuff. And I think my plan is to look into the K visa and do some whatever, because I think like the K visa, you're not really like committing to a move. You're just kind of like allowing yourself more options. So I'm gonna look into that, see what that's all about. But yeah, I am just like considering pulling the ripcord because like I don't know. I feel like, you know, after the Kirk assassination, gotta be a little bit more careful about things. You know, before I was a little bit, you know, devil may care, but I feel like if they can obviously take out someone that high profile and control the situation such that nothing happens, I'm like, how difficult would it be for them to take out someone like me? Well, I mean, like I said before, there are certain considerations about that that they might consider that I'm not going to really share, but yeah, I'm thinking about a lot of things. And, you know, I'm also sharing a lot of this stuff on CIA run YouTube right now. So who the fuck knows, right? Who the fuck knows? You know, you had Theo Vaughn even saying shit like, I'm not suicidal, right? Like you have Marjorie Taylor Greene saying stuff like, I'm not suicidal, right? Like everyone is like basically saying no one is fucking suicidal here. But who the fuck knows what's going to happen, right? Okay, let me see do the Kirk shooting another Reichstag fire? Yeah, I called it the Reichstag Kirkcella. Because you saw that fucking funeral, that was fucking Kirkcella. That wasn't a fucking funeral. That was like, did you guys hear about that psychopath? Like an hour after the shooting, he was like, "This is devastating." And it was shown that he was fucking lying about being part of TPUSA too. Like, Jesus Christ, these people are so obviously psychos, like, that were just ready to like rip into TPUSA and gobble that shit up herself. And even fucking Erica Kirk, right? I mean, hearing a lot of questionable shit about Erica Kirk, that's for sure. I mean, other people have covered it a lot more than I have, so you can check that shit out, but I really wouldn't want to talk about too much, but yeah. Church had better ELO. Well, Churchill also had a lot more fucking resources at his disposal, right? He already had the entire British Empire. I mean, that's why I don't think... I mean, that's why ultimately I think, you know, the secret agencies that were working with the Nazis, at the end of the day, they were like, yeah, if it ever came down to a war between Germany and England, we could take them down. Because the thing is, England... There was no matching the British Navy at that point, especially by the Nazis. So if the British can control the seas, even if England was in trouble, they would just go to Canada and resume operations there. But their navy could basically control the flow of trade for any protracted war. And the Nazis, I mean, just like Germany in World War I, the problem was that they could not win a war of attrition. So that's why the Nazis opted for this blitzkrieg strategy, because it just could quickly break down any sort of defense. They kind of learned that, like, yeah, if we're going to do fucking trench warfare again, we're going to lose. So we got to do is fucking strike them hard and fast so, like, we can, like, make these victories, you know, just basically punch through their fucking defenses. Which is why... ultimately, invading the Soviet Union was a mistake, because Hitler never intended it for it to be this protracted war. They wanted victory within 2 to 3 months. Operation Barbarossa, right? That happened in June of, I think it was June 20th, something like that, in 1941. And they were, not only did it not take 2 to 3 months, they had to stop like around 95 kilometers from Moscow in December because it was way too fucking cold to advance after that, or November. Because as Napoleon found out, 100 years prior, going into Russia without proper supply lines is a losing proposition. And Hitler kind of bought his own bullshit and was like, oh yeah, communism actually made Russia weak, so we're just going to kick down the fucking... We took care of France in 6 weeks. And, the Russians didn't really pull their weight in World War I. So what are they going to do this time? We're going to fucking roll in with our Panzer tanks, our high-tech Panzer shit, and we're going to run them over. And then they were like, oh, fuck. This is a lot harder than we anticipated. And Stalin was not sleeping at the wheel as we initially thought, and produced all these fucking T-34 tanks. And is making more and more of them now, and moved production to beyond the Urals. So Germany, once Operation Barbarossa wasn't a success in the first drive, they basically knew kind of that, like, oh fuck, like, what do we do now? I mean, you had your true believers, like whatever, Goebbels and whatever, but even if you read, apparently in some of Goebbels' diaries, he was like, oh fuck. Especially after Stalingrad. In Stalingrad in 1942, once that happens, a lot of the top Nazi brass are like, oh fuck. Especially people like Rommel, right? Who was part of the 1944 Hitler assassination plot. So they figured out. I mean, some of the Nazi brass were like, yeah, we done fucked up this time. Because what are they gonna do if they can't? Because the problem with the Nazis were they were getting their steel and whatever from iron and steel from Sweden. They were getting their oil from Romania. But as the Soviets were advancing, they were going to probably take Romania pretty quickly, and they needed those fucking oil in the Caucasus. That was why Hitler made that drive initially, because that's the thing that they had to capture. That was the most important thing, that they needed that oil in the Caucasus, and they didn't capture that. After the Stalingrad was a major fucking disaster because they were trying to capture that shit, and it was over after that, right? Because they couldn't get oil anymore. I mean, they were using, standard oils kind of like formula to produce oil with coal, right? Synthetic oil. But that wasn't enough to power the Wehrmacht, especially when, Britain and Russia now that Russia's in the fight, now they've got, almost unlimited oil themselves. And it's because at the time, Russia and America were the primary producers of oil in the world. And so Great Britain was like, oh, yeah, you done fucked up, because what are you going to do? We could just wait you out. We could just fucking siege mode you. And that's basically what they did. They were just like hanging out until it was like, oh, fuck, the Soviets are actually going to take over now. And then they were like, oh, we need to fucking prevent that from happening. So that's why in 1944, they were like, oh, yeah, we're here now. We're saving you from Nazi Germany. A year before, just at the last moment in 1944, after not fucking opening a second front for 3 years. Now we're here, guys. So, yeah. Anyway, I feel like I digressed enough about Great Britain, but alma mater supposedly banned legacy admission based. I think that's John Hopkins University, right? I heard that they banned it. In some Jewish schools, predominantly in Israel, addition sign isn't used. Yeah. Yeah, that's MR. Retarded. Mentally retarded. Sorry. That was my acronym for MR. Retarded. Seen Orthodox Jews fight Jews about Israel and Palestine. Exactly. There are some anti-Zionist Jews in Israel because they were there the entire time, right? They were actually Jews that were there before Zionism even existed, right? Because they were actually Jews that believed in the Holy Land or like being there for the like I think before the 1890s when the Zionist project started, I think the Jewish population in Palestine was around 1%. So there were Jews there prior to the creation of, Zionism. And those Jews are actually anti-Zionist because they're like, yeah, this wasn't part of our religion. New York City, Happy National Day. What's Happy National Day? What up in illustrious media? Check in SAR. K visa is only for STEM workers. I asked AI and they said like it might be open to interpretation. I do have a BS in economics that may or may not qualify. I do also have assets that may or may not qualify. So I did ask AI. They said just to check with the Chinese consulate because it is a new, very, very new thing. It's, obviously going to be open to interpretation. But yeah, it does seem a little dicey for me because, Duke University was a long ass time ago. It's not like I've been doing high tech commercial work. I mean, I was involved with cryptocurrency in 2017 and whatever, but I was never involved in like a, company building, infrastructure building aspect of it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, like, I'm going to look into it, right? That's just what I'm going to do. I don't know if it's going to work out. Maybe it won't. Maybe you're right. South Korea started visa-free entries in South Korea for tourist groups coming from China. Yeah, because they're like, we need that fucking money now. And we saw that Trump was or ICE was fucking racist, retarded idiots. So Lee Jae-myung probably feels more comfortable forming closer ties with China because like now the people are like, yeah, America is kind of fucking racist and retarded and we can't trust them. Again, Koreans, we don't win many Fall For It Again awards, okay? Both sides of the fucking peninsula, Park Chung-hee might be evil as fuck, but he was a very effective economist. He used a lot of the Soviet model to fucking, industrialize Korea. So he was very intelligent, right, in that regard. I'm not going to say that he wasn't. But he too does not win Fall For It Again awards because he was like, you know what? These Americans, they're not really reliable partners, right? Because they were fucking, like in the 1960s and 1970s, they were kind of flip-flopping on defense in South Korea because at the time, the Vietnam War was like going on. And the American failure of the Vietnam War and the fucking fallout from it made both the Vietnam War unpopular, right? But it also made their occupation in Korea unpopular. Like, why are we fighting these wars in Asia? That started to fucking happen. And so Park Chung-hee is like, wait, no, we need you guys here. Like, what are you doing? So that's why the American military or the American government was like, all right, we'll let you develop your economy to the point where you can defend yourselves. But that wasn't good enough for Park Chung-hee, right? Park Chung-hee wanted his own fucking nuclear weapons because he wanted to be like, all right, Kim Il-sung, you want to go? We can fucking go. So he wanted to get his own nuclear weapons to basically threaten North Korea. But he didn't realize the Americans were not about to share their monopoly with non-white people. right? They're willing to share it with the UK. They're willing to share it with France. But they did not like Soviets and Chinese people having them, that's for sure. And you can never trust a gook, right? You know, maybe he turns communist one day, right? So the CIA did not like that because I think he started his own nuclear weapons program in the 1970s. Could have been the 1960s. They found out about it, so he stopped. But then after the 75, you know, the fall of Saigon, he kind of like started it up again without the Americans knowing until they did know, because he was using French technologists, nuclear scientists, to build some sort of centrifugal, you know, stuff under the auspices of nuclear energy, right? But as we all know, those fucking centrifuges can also be used to create weapons grade uranium. And so in 1979, he was killed by a KCIA agent, presumably under different auspices. But a lot of Korean people, especially the boomers, they all think the CIA took him out. So, yeah, all this to say, you can make a deal with the devil, but once you go off track, like Charlie Kirk, like Park Chung-hee, like all these other, you know, I'm sure Zelensky is going to be, you know, taken out back and shot one day. You know, No Din Diem, right? He was taken out back and shot in the fucking face once, like that Buddhist monk killed himself with the self-immolation. That was basically the end of South Vietnam as a regime. And they never recovered in 1963 after that. And so, yeah, you can make a deal with the devil, but if you go off script to try to get your own nukes, you're going to get not alived. It's National Day in China. Oh, okay. Oh, is it? Why is today National Day? I thought it would be like, is it? Wait, is today the anniversary of 1949? Oh, yeah. Actually, it's funny because I was considering going to China during the October 1949 thing because it was the 75th last year. But then everyone Chinese was like, "Do not do that." You think Times Square during fucking New Year's Eve is crazy? It's like, do not do that. Do not go to Beijing on October 1st. Do not go anywhere near Beijing. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. But in 25 years, when I'm fucking 66 and it's the 100th year, I'm going to that shit if I'm not killed by them, or if, you know, the world isn't destroyed by them. I'm going to the fucking 100 year on October 1st. That's where I'm going. I'll be there. So 2049, October 1st, you can count on me being there unless I'm killed by the CIA, or I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's a place I think is good for old people because you don't have to move around a lot. You can just like sit around and be, you know, probably in one of the things be like, yeah, in the back. You don't have to be in the front or anything. You can just be like an old man praising the revolution. But yeah, hold on. Let me see more of this stuff. South Korea PR move. There probably is a little bit of that PR move. I think, you know, especially with the majority of the H-1B people being Indian, right? You're going to get a lot of Indian people who are now mad at the United States and now mad at the West. And if China captures those mad Indians, those Brahmins, right? They capture them, and they start saying like, "Oh, actually, China's good after all." That is a huge fucking win propaganda-wise for China, right? But if I benefit from it, hey, who am I? Who am I to deny policy just because I know it's intended for propaganda with India? Who am I? Right? Sure, whatever. Um, are we Chinese talent enough unemployment situation? I mean, they ain't seeing the bigger picture here. It's all about getting fucking India and their jeets off their fucking back. Like once if you actually start cross India China relations to be very positive, that is terrible for the West. That's fucking terrible. Oh, Steve, are you already living in China yourself? You live in Beijing? My cousin's telling me some South Koreans protesting the visa-free entry from China. Why are South Koreans protesting the visa-free entry? How does that fucking affect them? That's just like retarded nonsense. God, I fucking hate fucking Chinilpa and Chinmipa scum. They're so fucking, not only are they scum, they're just like retarded. Retarded scum. Oh, MIT, yeah. Yeah, because legacy admissions is, well, it's literally white supremacist nonsense. It's actually Nazi-coded white supremacist nonsense. That is the legacy of legacy admissions. Basically, if you support legacy admissions, you are supporting Nazi ideology. Too tired to stick around long, but just here to check in star before. Yeah, no worries, D Wallace. I actually came in late myself. I actually started the stream at 8:45 or so, so it's not a big deal. I'm probably gonna end soon anyway. It's kind of more of a casual thing, just to be here, even though I was late. I forgot about it. I just wanted to show up for the people who do show up, and I feel like I shared a little bit about what I learned today, so it's been somewhat productive. Think YouTube is censoring the 3-letter agency in the comment section, like CIA. They're actually censoring that now. Well, many of you might know this, but Google was actually founded by In-Q-Tel, which is a CIA-owned venture capitalist firm. So, wow. I'm gonna fucking write CIA. Wait, it's not censoring me. No, I'm here for a talk at Peking University Hospital. I plan to talk shortly before National Day, and so I can also spend this time. Okay. Wait, so are you... Oh, you married a Chinese person, right? I think that's... Or you're half Chinese, Steve? Something like that? Sorry. I forget kind of like what's going on in people's lives. Oh, maybe it was just a glitch. Or maybe Mossad thought I was too boring to keep around or keep on their mute screen, so they were like, this guy's boring. This guy's just talking about Russian imperialism and the White Russians and MI6. What is he? What is he talking about? CIA, CIA, CIA. Like, what has the CIA ever done for the average American? Like, that's the thing too. How do more people not protest the existence of this fucking secret agency that can do whatever the fuck it wants and has provided no actual material benefit that we can tangibly say, hey, this helped America? Every single thing the CIA did was to help corporate interests. Like, explicitly. Like Guatemala, that shit was specifically for the United Fruit Company, which was one of Alan Dulles' clients when he was a fucking corporate lawyer. Like, it's so fucking... They're not even, like, hiding the fact that it's just for corporations. Like, they've never done anything for the American public for their entire history. Like, the initial reason they were allowed was because we needed to fight communism, right? The Soviets were going to destroy us from within, right? The Nazi fucking line. But after 1991, guess what? The Soviet Union falls, and what, we need NATO still? Because they disbanded the Warsaw Pact, but apparently we still need NATO, right? And apparently we still need the CIA, because 9/11 ain't gonna plan itself, that's for sure. Like, in the past 30 years, what has the CIA tangibly done for the American public? Other than, like, even without 9/11, even without the revelation, right? Even if we assume that the CIA wasn't involved in that. We all know they spied on everyone because of fucking Edward Snowden. They literally built Sauron's eye and just spied on every fucking American. They violated the entire country's Fourth Amendment fucking rights. Search and seizure. Unjust search and seizure. They violated our fucking constitutional First Amendment, Fourth Amendment. All these fucking rights are, just trampled on. And it's just kind of like, wait, are Americans just okay with getting fucking raped over and over again by this agency that produces no tangible benefit to society? That we spend billions of dollars every year on? And not only that, they probably have their own secret fucking slush fund, like, hidden around in all these fucking areas. Like, that's what they were fucking doing. Not only were they preparing for war or Cold War against the Soviet Union, they were preparing for their own demise as well. Because that's the thing. After the revolution, even if there is a successful American revolution, like communist revolution, the CIA also planned for that eventuality as well. And they are... There's, like, hidden fucking money all over the fucking world. They're like Voldemort's Horcruxes. They fucking Horcruxed their assets all around the fucking world. So even if you destroy the main thing, they're gonna fucking Horcrux themselves back into existence. So even after the revolution, the fucking fight is not over still. That's how fucking crazy it is. Like, I don't think people understand the scale of, like, their manipulation and their capabilities. Because that's the thing too. If they were working with MI6 and these bankers the entire time, guess what? They're gonna know a lot about stuff about finance themselves. They're gonna know where to hide all this money all over the fucking planet. Unless money itself is rendered useless, the CIA will always be a fucking threat. And even if tomorrow, like for some miracle, there was a communist revolution, we're not getting to like the communist state overnight. That's going to take years and years and years. And guess what? It's like, you know what I always wondered about? Like, at the end of Star Wars, right? Episode 6, you're just kind of like, oh, yeah, the Empire's gone. Like, they killed the Emperor, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I see episode 7, right? And I'm just like, wait, the First Order, they just reconstituted and they're at the Empire again? I'm like, wait a second. How's that possible? I thought they fucking won. I thought they fucking killed the Emperor, right? And they fucking destroyed their entire Imperial fleet, you know, in that last battle with the Ewoks. I'm like, why the fuck did they... And now it's like, oh, yeah, I could see how they reconstituted. It's like they had fucking Voldemort CIA Horcruxes all around the galaxy that were like, you know what? We like the Empire, actually. So, so yeah. That's why I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm 41 years old. You know, leave it to the 20-something Asian American, you know, Marxist Leninist. You know, maybe I should just be the fucking mentor to the future Asian American Marxist Leninist person or whatever. But me, maybe I need to kick back and enjoy the rest of my life, because it ain't gonna improve here anytime soon. That's for fucking sure. I don't fucking know. They did win, but Disney isn't creative enough to come up with a villain faction? What's that? What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Exactly, Steve. I've done my part. I feel like... And I could still do work from China, right? I could still do my propaganda work from China. Clearly, right? VPNs, right? Clearly, there isn't any actual censorship of the fuck, as long as... I mean, and I'm making media that China will probably like, right? I'm not making fucking, you know, anti-China shit. So, I'm pretty sure I can continue my work there. Oh, who knows? Who knows? Who knows, right? I mean, they did just give TikTok away. Well, not away, but, you know, they had other sort of geopolitical motives for that. But, you know, they may be playing ball with Western propagandists. They might shut me down if they feel like, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I'm just kind of like weighing the options, weighing my life here, weighing the revolution, weighing my experiences on the ground. You know, everything's dynamic, right? Everything's very in flux. But I will say, though, that, you know, I've been doing some more party work. I'm not exactly sure how much I'm allowed to share, but a lot of it does involve going out to the public and talking to people and getting their perspectives and just, like, you know, just interfacing with the masses, right? That's what we're supposed to do. That's what Lenin said we're supposed to do. And I feel like in China, I wouldn't be able to do that, because I'm not Chinese. I'm not one of them, right? Even though I look that way, right? I'm not technically a Chinese person. And so even if I were to try to teach people about stuff that even Chinese communists may not be aware of, they're going to be like, you're an American. Why should I listen to you? Blah, 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 blah. And the same thing, if I go to either Korea, like even if I were to go to North Korea, they'd be like, well, I don't know if you're still, you know, you could still be a South Korean spy or an American spy. So there'd be a period of transition, you know, that would take a little bit of time to gain people's trust, right? because they don't know who I am. They could be like, yeah, you're just a fucking spy. You're just a very sophisticated Korean American Marxist Leninist CIA agent, and maybe kill me. You know, I'm sure they would investigate a little bit more before killing me, um, but yeah, it wouldn't be this hand in glove thing either. You know, it's not like my problems are solved if I just go to North Korea or China, right? And even in Vietnam, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much freedom of speech I'm going to be able to have, and um, ironically enough, America still is. You know, obviously that's a little bit changing now with the Kirk assassination, but America still is the place where you can say whatever the fuck you want, um, out of a lot of terrible options. Learn Mandarin today, huh? Just learn Mandarin. Just learn one of the most complicated languages to fucking learn. Just do it. Especially considering, you know, I may be quite intelligent in a lot of fields, but languages is actually my weakness. Languages was the worst subject. I hated going to French class. I didn't like going to Korean school. Though I feel like my Korean is actually pretty good, even though I downplay it. It's not as good as like obviously a native speaker or anything like that, obviously. But I think I have good, I can LARP pronunciation if I have the script beforehand. Because I can imitate stuff pretty well. And so, you know, I would imitate my dad a lot. Especially when he was cursing and shit. Um, so you kind of like get that tonality, get that inflection, get that, you know, whatever. Yeah, fucking French. I wish I actually learned German, you know, because like I'd fucking read Marx and Hegel in the original fucking German. I'd be like, that's awesome. Like now I can read that shit. But I don't think they really offer it that much in America, actually, for obvious reasons, right? What up, Yay? Why am I Yay? Am I the Korean Kanye? QFK? UCLA. So I think it's been pretty good. So we went the past couple weeks, QFK, and I think what is different is that we're on campus now when the undergraduates are there. You know, obviously the Kirk thing probably also heightened interest, but random people just come to our table now, because they're like, they see. So what Daniel does is he sets up all these books, like all these communist books, and he has like a globe or whatever. But we don't like shout slogans or anything. People just come to us, and we also noticed two people came from the poli-sci, or they were poli-sci majors. So we're like thinking, hey, what if we set up camp near the poli-sci fucking building? We might get a lot more foot traffic that's interested. So we're considering possibly trying that out for whatever. But I think it's going well because we had like 5 or 6 people just come up to us. We didn't even have to do anything, and we had pretty good conversations, I think. But yeah, we're just trying to build rapport. Hopefully, you know, we can get a student union going on campus, and they'll kind of like we'll be interfacing with them, you know, building our little mini Soviet on the UCLA campus. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? I don't know where the library is. Yeah, I guess I learned a little bit of survival Spanish because I did some, what did I do? Oh yeah, like our church when I was in high school, we were doing like mission trips to Nicaragua and the Dominican Republic. So I learned a little bit of a Spanish, not anyway. I don't know that much Spanish, but you know, obviously I took French, so I know more French than Spanish. But like, you know, I would lead the fucking the music shit because I would play guitar or whatever and be like, Cristo me llama, yo lo sé. En la Biblia dice que los pequeños son de él y su amor perfecto es. Si Cristo me llama, si Cristo me llama. And then French, I'd be like, wait, au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi et à minuit, il y a tout ce qu'à voulez en Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. You know? So that's what I do. I just fucking LARP songs. You know, even Korean, you know, that's how I also got pretty decent at pronunciation. You know, I'd LARP all these HOT songs at the norebang, you know, like Candy, for example. No one can defeat me at doing Candy in the norebang, that's for fucking sure. Because I can not only do the song in the language, but I can do all their fucking voices, you know, all the different fucking high five of teenager voices. But yes, learn Mandarin. But yes, that's how that went. I went to one of those Saturday Chinese schools when I was a kid, and I hated it. Yeah, I fucking hated that shit when I was growing. I went to the fucking Korean school, and there was always fucking be on Saturday mornings, and I wanted to watch my fucking Spider-Man cartoons because they would only play those back then in fucking Saturday mornings. And like I needed that Spider-Man. I'd never be able to fucking watch like every, you know, obviously during the summertime, now that school's out, I can fucking watch the Spider-Man fucking cartoons on Saturdays. But no. So I guess like my reward for going to Korean school was getting Spider-Man comic books from my mom, I guess. Because it'd be in NYC, New York City. I would just like go to the, you know, after Korean school, I'd just probably go to the fucking bodega, check out some comic books or whatever. I think they used to sell comic books at like the bodega back then, I think. I might be fucking lying. But there were more comic books in just regular stores back in the day, in the 1990s, I think, or the 1980s. But yeah, I would go to Korean school, fucking hate that shit. I did take 3 courses of Korean in Duke because there was a language requirement. I took the one to just pass it pretty quickly and easily. There was a white guy in one of our classes. It'd be so funny though because like, yeah, we just fucking he was a law school student, so he was taking the undergraduate, but it was kind of hilarious. We'd just fucking make jokes all the time about Anyway, what else? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand why my parents got me into it, and I wish I had, you know, taken more of an interest. But I also understood why I didn't want to take an interest. It's just kind of like your parents bring you to this foreign country, right? And the idea is that this is our new home and we're trying to assimilate. And it's just kind of like when you look at the world around you, you're like, what the fuck good is Korean going to do me in America? You know, that's kind of like where I stood because as a young Korean American, I also was kind of like, yeah, why do you guys have Korean pride anyway? You know, it was MacArthur that apparently saved us from the Japs and the crazy commies. What the fuck did you guys do? Just sit around and fucking, you know, wait till Japan got nuked? You know, that's why I was just like, obviously, we're an American now. America's the GOAT. What the fuck are we doing praising Korean whatever? You know, this is my 3rd grade mentality, right? This is what I was thinking in 4th grade. When I was continually going to Korean school and wondering why I was fucking wasting my Spider-Man time with this fucking gook nonsense. But it was also because like I was being bullied by fucking Korean people, not only at that Korean school, but in fucking church too. So it was like, what the fuck? I don't fucking have any loyalty to this fucking Korean people. They fucking treat me like they're like pieces of shit. Like, it's the Korean people that are the fucking worst to me in America. So why the fuck should I be pro-Korean? You know, that's the mentality I had growing up. I was named after the MacArthur. I was like, you know what? I'm an American now. And I want my fucking American cartoons. But yeah, obviously, yeah, I was a kid. I was a fucking retard who didn't know anything about history and global history back then. So that was the mentality back then that I had. And it was the fucking 1980s, right? Or yeah, I was born in 83. So when I was 8 or 9, it was like the early 1990s. I didn't even know like anything really about the Soviet Union growing up until like middle school, when like I think they talked about the Soviet Union in like global studies in 6th grade, but they obviously couched it in anti-communist rhetoric. They were like, oh yeah, there was these people that thought everyone should be equal, and it all failed because there weren't any incentives. That's that was the line, right? And so yeah, that's kind of what my mentality was with Korean. And it was just also, I was a very gifted person in math and science. So it was just kind of, this is a fucking waste of my time. Like, when am I going to use Korean in my life? Once I'm done with college, once I'm done with whatever, like, I'm going to be in American society. This doesn't fucking make sense, right? So, yeah, there was a battle between my mom. First words to be Mandarin Korean. I had to go. Oh God, that's a fucking nightmare, Steve. I feel sorry for you actually now. You have to go to both fucking Korean, like what? Fucking Korean school in Saturdays and fucking Chinese school on Sunday. Oh God, that fucking sucks. I speak fluent Mandarin. Actually, 2 years of elementary, but I definitely I mean, I'm gonna be trying to do. It's just I have so much fucking shit on my plate. There is just too much shit to read. There is just. I mean, I think I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and OCD. There's probably stuff I'm more reading for my own personal enjoyment and edification. Like, do I need to read both volumes of Schopenhauer's Peregna and Pompeii, whatever it's called? Probably not, but I want to know everything. I want to know exactly everything Schopenhauer said, so I'm going to fucking read it. I want to read everything Hegel said, so I have his philosophy of nature, I have his philosophy of all the shit that isn't really even popular for Hegelians. I'm going to read that shit too. Eventually, I've read Nietzsche's entire canon, except for Dawn, but I ordered that so I can read that too. Like, even the shit on Aristotle, just to know the complete canon of Western philosophy and where everything fucking... Look at this shit. Like, I'm a fucking crazy person right now. Like, what the fuck am I doing? What the fuck is wrong with me? This is what I'm ordering online. I'm just like fucking ordering the entire. Like, I'm probably like a line item on Amazon.com right now, and like this fucking weirdo who's ordering thousands of dollars of books every year. It's kind of just like, wait. Yeah, actually, weekends were actually the only days I could play video games too. I was, for the longest time, up until high school, I had a 2 hour, a week quota. 1 hour on Friday, 1 hour on Saturdays. That was how much I was allowed to play video games. But once I kind of got into middle school and high school, I somewhat subverted a lot of that shit. And then basically, they gave up on trying to enforce everything. But also, they were fucking furious as fuck because what I would do is I would play StarCraft at night into the fucking... Oh my god, that was... I was playing StarCraft and it was 3 or 4 in the morning. My dad comes down. He's like, "What the fuck are you?" He just takes one of the speakers, throws it across the room. I'm like, holy shit, am I gonna die right now? Oh my god, those were the fucking... Oh man, those are memories. And the funny thing too, I tried to like use that speaker afterwards, and then it slowly died. It started working at first, like, oh, it's fine, and then it slowly started to like get softer and softer until it didn't work anymore. But yeah, that was my video game shit. But yeah, I think it's easier to learn new languages though now because yeah, like you said, there's content, right? There's Korean content that people watch, and so yeah, the best French speaker in high school for me, he regularly watched all these French dramas because I guess he was into French shit or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. If you're into that shit, it's easier to learn it because you want to learn it, right? But yeah, took Chinese, caught fluent because, yeah, cool Korean crowd was tough, lol. Yeah, I feel like, oh, God. I have a love-hate relationship with the Korean diaspora, even before communism and even after communism, right? Because the Korean diaspora does not like people who cape for North Korea, that's for fucking sure. But even before communism, it was just kind of like they don't really accept you unless you're someone, right? After I won millions of dollars, right, on fucking World Series of Poker, now I'm in the Korean newspaper, right? Now it's like, oh yeah, he's one of us guys, he's Korean. And I'm like, I was thinking like Jay-Z. I was like, when you first come into the game, they try to play you. Then you drive a couple of hits. Look how they wave to you. You know what I'm talking about? From Marcy to Madison Square. The only thing that matters is just a couple of years. Yeah. Jay's status, Doug's status was an all-time high. Perfect time to say goodbye. So I was like, when I come back like Jordan, wearing the 4-5, he ain't play games with you. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm wearing the fucking 4-5. It ain't to play fucking games with you. It's to aim at you. Get it? Because a 4-5 was Jordan's jersey number, but it's also 45. Haha. But yeah. This was the 1980s. Video games not at the level it is now. Yeah. So all the millennials know, all you elder millennials know the deal. This was kind of standard practice for a lot of people. Wait, every Zoomer's first exposure to the Soviet Union. Oh, I actually never. I don't play commit or Call of Duty just because, again, I guess my autistic brain can't handle motion sickness. I think that's probably why. But yeah, my reading habits weren't always like this. I think it's just. I think I said this before, but my reading habits came from. I was online, I was doing all this shit. I was reading, but I wasn't reading as much as I was now. So the first 2 years when I'm on Twitter or whatever, a lot of my shit is just coming from like Malcolm X's fucking autobiography. Like a lot of stuff, and people are saying like, holy shit, this guy sees the Matrix. So I was like, yeah, I see the Matrix because I fucking talk to Morpheus, you know? And so in the first year, in 2020, 2021, I actually didn't know that much shit because I was like, oh, I'm just like writing off fucking fumes because everyone else is so retarded that just by me reading a few books, I'm like now in the 99th percentile of awareness. But what really got me started was there was this guy who said, because like somebody said like, oh, you don't actually need to read Capital. It's just, it's all this whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's just economic theory to prove that Marxism is correct and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But then I saw this Marxist who I think is now a Trotskyite, ironically enough. But he said something that inspired me. He said something like, if you're a real Marxist, you should read what fucking Marx wrote. And anyone can read Capital. It's, they only say that it's complicated because they don't want you to read it. These leftists, these fucking, ironically enough, he would call them Trotskyites, right? These leftists or whatever would, oh, all right, see you, Steve. But my habits come from being like, you know what? I'm going to read Capital now that he's kind of like challenged me. And you know what? When I got it, I was like, oh shit, this is, let me see if I can. Yeah, I got this version of Capital, okay? That's all 3 volumes in one. So you can see how it's fucking thick as fuck because it's 1,400 pages altogether. Not only that, you can see every page it's like 10-point font microfilm, right? So when I got this, I was like, holy fucking shit, how am I going to read this shit? I mean, look at this. I'm like underlining every fucking page. But yeah, you can see I fucking read the whole fucking thing. Right? But how I did it, I was just like, you know what? When I wake up in the morning, I'm just going to read 8 to 10 pages. However many pages I can read in like an hour, hour and a half. Because, yeah, it took me fucking an hour to read those 10 pages sometimes. Sometimes it was like, wait, what the fuck is he talking about? And I'd be like, oh, wait, what? Oh, wait, what? Oh, wait, what? That was the fucking process. But when you do that over and over and over again, you get faster, right? You get smarter. They're like, oh, okay, now I know what he's talking about. Oh, okay, now I know what he's talking about. Because, like, a lot of this stuff is kind of, like, very esoteric in the beginning. But when you read, it, you kind of, like, he's writing in a way that, like, German philosophers wrote back in the 1800s. So once you read his shit and you kind of, like, digest it and you've built up your, like, reading muscles, so to speak, then you can kind of, like, read Kant and be like, oh, okay, still a little bit of like, back and forth, but a little less, right? And then Hegel, which is even more complicated, in my opinion. There's still a lot of that back and forth, but you're also like, oh, okay, I'm kind of understanding things as I'm going along. So you're like building your fucking reading muscles, so a lot of this shit is a lot less intimidating. But yeah, I will admit, like, so for shit like this is an easier read because it's just history, right? I can space like, yeah, okay. And even this stuff like this is just a biography, so that's also pretty easy to read. But yeah, the hardest shit, obviously, is the fucking abstract, theoretical stuff that I've never read before. But if you can tackle this shit, you can tackle anything. You could tackle whatever, and it'll not be that. Obviously, I have a lot more time than most people. So I don't expect anyone to be able to do what I do because people don't even have the time to do what I do. And to be honest, I do fuck around a lot with my time. Or not that I fuck around a lot. It's more that I could be more efficient and, with my time. But, sometimes I'm just kind of like, I will read a certain amount every day because, like now I've gotten into that habit and I just want to keep that going. But sometimes it is a slog. Sometimes it's just like, oh God, do I really want to read about anti-Semitism again for the 300th day in a row? Do I really want to read about the Nazis again for the fucking, 2000th time? And every time I'm just kind of like, yeah, I guess I do. That's the work, right? That's the job. And that's the fucking, because back then, that's what Marx was doing, right? Did he really want to, like, fucking go through the London Stock Exchange and, fucking London fucking shit to, maybe he did. Actually, he probably did want to do that because he was just autistic as fuck. But, yeah, it's funny because I'm reading this shit and I'm like, dude was autistic. There's no fucking doubt in my mind. He does the same exact shit I do. Like the shit like, so for example, Engels will be like, dude, stop being a fucking perfectionist and fucking write the thing. And Marx will be like, no, I need to read all this shit first. So I make sure I don't make a mistake and I make sure that everything is complete. I need to read everything. And so, like, for example, the first thing they actually work on is like the Holy Family or something. Like it's kind of like a polemic against this idea of the Holy Family. And Engels writes like 15 to 16 pages, but Marx contributes 300 pages, and Engels is like, I don't want to be a co-author on this thing because clearly your contribution is like. I do have. Let me share with you a list that I share on Twitter. I do have a Goodreads. Let me get that. My Goodreads account shares all of my reads, so some of them aren't really Marxism, but you can check out my thing, my profile. So this is my Goodreads. And God damn it. Now I'm lagging. Definitely lagging right now. So this is the start of the thread. But I started this thread back in... When did I start this thread? I started this thread after I had started reading. So in December 14th, 2022, you'll see a lot of entries because I'm just like all the stuff that I've read up to that point. But then after December 14th, you'll see that I add new entries as I'm reading these books. So you'll see, for example, 2023, January 25th, that's when I finished Capital Volume 2. Because I started the Capital in 2022. So you can kind of see, I'm just sort of also trying to review every single book that I read. Because, my mom says to me, it's funny because like my mom's like, well, did you make a summary? Because if you don't make a summary, you're going to forget it. So I was like, all right, Mom, fine, whatever. And so I, on my Goodreads account, I actually do review now, starting from that book. I try to review everything I've read. Um, I think I review everything I read on this list, just so you can kind of get an overview as well as kind of like what it's about. You know, like you can skip it if you don't think it's relevant to your interests. But I think this is kind of like, I'm just in real time. I'm kind of trying to share my own discoveries, like, because again, I didn't know anything about fucking Marxism and Leninism. I didn't even know who fucking Karl Marx was until 2020. That's how crazy American propaganda is. Like, yes, we learned about the Soviet Union, but nobody even fucking, I didn't even hear the name Karl Marx or Vladimir Lenin before 2020. That's how fucking uninformed I was about politics. That's how much I was like, I don't give a fuck about politics. I'm like a libertarian, apolitical. I just want to make money, and everyone can go fuck off. Yeah. I know Edward Said is a little he's a little lib, but I think there are some good insights in that book, especially about how British and French imperialism operated through, a lot of educational stuff, whatever. Well, it's funny because I was actually, I more supported this because to be contrarian, but like, some as you may know, New York, especially my area, Westchester County, was heavily white liberal, right? It was heavily liberal. And so they were all Democrats supporting blah, blah, blah. And so me and my friends, my Italian and Irish friend and me, we were all in the fucking nerd classes together. But all the liberal Jews were, obviously supporting Democrats. And we were like, yeah, Al Gore is gay as fuck. We would make fun of Al Gore. We'd be like, oh, Al Gore, yeah, he created the internet, right? I swear to God, we were just trolling. We didn't even look at any of party policies. We're just kind of like, yeah, George Bush, he's a man's man. Who cares if he's kind of stupid or whatever? But yeah, I obviously did not pay attention to politics before 2020. It was actually even before Andrew Yang. It was Stephen Hawking who made me think about politics, based on his prediction about AI and or machinery or all this stuff. So yeah, Lee Kuan Yew. I do also read the opposition. Gotta know what they're saying, right? It was interesting because Lee Kuan Yew does talk about Vietnam and China. He does not like Vietnam very much. He calls them gangsters, or yeah. Basically, he's of the mind that, because they won the war, they started bullying everyone around them. Very similar to the line in the 1970s by Communist China, but it's interesting that the Communist Party of China no longer talks about the Khmer Rouge or supports it publicly. I wonder why that might be, Chinese ultras. Latest book as well, One Man's View of the World. Who's one? Are you talking about? Is that Lee Kuan Yew as well, or is that Edward Said? Yeah, so in 2019, before I was a communist, I was depressed, probably because of capitalism, and but really because I was like, yeah, this acting thing is probably not going to work out. So I was kind of like depressed, and my mom told me to read a lot of shit. And so in 2019, I didn't know anything about anything. So I just started reading stuff about technology and then about Hollywood people. and because I was just like, oh, let me gain some insights about people who I consider to be somewhat intelligent, right? You know, Peter Thiel. I also knew, because I'm somewhat friends with Mark Zuckerberg, that he was a very early investor in Facebook. And I was Team Zuck for the longest time. So I was like, oh, Peter Thiel must be a very smart guy. And he is a very smart guy, not going to lie. But he's also very evil, unfortunately. I didn't really understand that until later on, but in 2019, yeah, basically I was like, oh, he's a technologist. Let me read his 0 to 1. And I will say 0 to 1, it's a pretty good read if you're into being a tech bro supremacist. So it's got some interesting insights, but yes, I am very well aware of where Peter Thiel stands today. So again, my reading list kind of also is indicative of my personal political journey in real time. You can kind of see how I like the choices I'm making in the next line of like what I'm thinking, whatever. You're like, oh, now he's read about the Korean War. Oh, now he's reading about, more about Stalin. Because I started reading about Stalin in 2022 when the Russian SMO happened, because I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Then after reading about the Soviet Union, after I'm starting really like my fucking project in earnest, my World War II project in earnest, it really started with my research on the Nazis. The scope of the project was just going to be about the Nazis and the American kind of like, now today, kind of replicating that for Asian Americans. But now I'm realizing there is a lot more to talk about, not just about the Nazis, but about Great Britain, about Japan, about fucking America, about France, about all these places and what was going on in every single place. So that's how that got expanded. But yeah, I also read fucking Ben Horowitz's book, Hard Thing About Hard Things, because Zuck kind of recommended it. Well, he didn't recommend it to me, but he was saying that this is one of the books like, he recommended like to a panel, right? And so I was just kind of like, because I was kind of like a tech bro. Well, not a tech bro adjacent, or tech bro, because I wasn't in tech myself, but I was kind of like following technology, right? Yeah, Andreessen is just a fucking moron in that regard. The Optimist Manifesto bullshit, or, he came out with his software will eat everything, and yeah, he was right about that. But then he ain't right about what happens afterwards, because it eats everything, because now, but it doesn't create anything. So yeah, the software that like Andreessen is right. Web 2.0 ate everything, but it didn't produce anything. But yeah. Anyway, I feel like yapped enough. Even though I started late. Hopefully I'll fix the fucking thing next time so it's not fucking choppy as fuck. Maybe if I get enough of an audience and maybe some more, shit that makes this more sustainable, maybe I'll fucking buy another computer that can more handle this shit. But as long as that doesn't happen, you're gonna get janky fucking OBS, and yeah, because yeah, nobody ain't paying me for this shit, that's for fucking sure. So sorry about that, but production value will probably not improve anytime in the near future, unless someone wants to be a benefactor and just pay for shit for me. Not gonna stop anyone from doing that, but I do not want any direct donations. I want to keep this free, friendly. I never want to make any money from my content. But I will accept donations of equipment if someone is so inclined, because that is, I consider that capital, means of production for this channel. So that is the only thing I will accept. But as far as money, whatever, I've got enough. Thank you. But that's not why I do this shit, obviously. Like Frederick Engels, right? The entire time in the 1850s, Marx was fucking broke as fuck, and he had an entire family to take care of. The New York Tribune was paying him £1 per article, and they didn't even fucking buy. Like he would write 5 articles, and they would take one and pay him half price, which was £1 instead of the £2. So he was fucking struggling as fuck, and so yeah, he had to rely on Engels, and he would always be like, "I hate to fucking ask you because I wouldn't ask you if it wasn't a fucking emergency," and Engels would come through, and so I'm my own personal Engels. So there have been offers of money in the past, but again, I don't need it. Thank you. But maybe if people want to see better production stuff, whatever, I will accept donations, whatever. And maybe if it does become much more extensive, maybe I'll accept fucking donations to hire staff and whatever. But at this juncture, we are going free. We are free. We are whatever. Everything is free. This is communism education. I am Marxist.org in video form. So I do not ever want anyone to feel like they have to contribute to support me, because unless that changes, maybe somebody will bankrupt me, whatever, and then I'll be like, all right, guys, I need some help. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just be like, I guess I'm moving back in with my parents and making this content from home. Actually, that's probably what I'll do anyway. But yeah, I don't want to ever feel like I'm making money from it, because that's not. Even Marx was like, no one should have to write for money, because once you have to write for money, your writing's all compromised. It's all fucking, it's based on whoever your benefactor wants you to write, right? So I never want to give that impression. This is a free thinker, like Matt Kim, like free thinker. There is no Patreon, Tommy Turtle. This is a Patreon free site. No money will ever be collected. I guess I do collect $12 or so a month from X. But I use that to pay for the blue check mark, so it's pretty much a wash. So yeah, I guess that's the money I make. I use to improve my production value. So all the proceeds that I make basically go into the channel. All the $12 a month go back into my fucking propaganda. And so that was basically what Engels was funding. He was funding Marx. He was funding Marx writing that fucking behemoth I just showed you. That was funded by Engels, right? Anyway, yeah. I've been yapping a lot, but I'll talk to you guys on Sunday. See you guys later.